Welcome into our first BTN Student U Women's Soccer Show here as a part of IU Sports Media. Connor Hines here with Brandon Schaff, a couple of the BTN Student U broadcasters who have been covering this women's soccer team this year. Brandon, Indiana 6-6-1 on the year. They're now 2-3-1 in the Big Ten overall. This is our first show this season, so just some of your overarching thoughts on this season, the progression so far. This is the first year of Erwin Van Bennekom's era at Indiana, and he's carried the way a little bit. It's probably not where these Hoosiers are where they want to be, but there's certainly progress being made, I would say.
Yeah, well, there's certainly a lot to talk about. We're already halfway through the season. As you mentioned, they're 6-6, so they've had a good opportunity to see their successes come into fruition, but they've also seen a lot of things that they need to work on, and that comes really from Van Bennekom and the amount of freshmen and underclassmen that he's really put right into the fire from the get-go. He's had 4 different freshmen start throughout the course of this season, with the additional transfer sophomore getting some big-time minutes in Olivia Voss. So obviously there's a lot that has been working for them, but as they've headed into conference play here, there's a lot of adjustments that still need to be made.
You mentioned the youth. Elena Kalin and Avery Lockwood are two names that come to mind there, and they are, Erwin Van Bennekom considers him his players all the way. Obviously you have Chandra Davidson, who's a senior leader as well. Who has stood out to you overall as a top performer? Lockwood and Davidson are up the top, in terms of scoring goals and leading the way. Who has stood out to you, and how does this team look midway through the Big Ten season?
I've really gone back and forth between Lockwood and Davidson the entire season. It seems like every single time one of them seems like they've kind of stepped it up, the next one just comes right back the next game. And I feel like every single game, either one of them has pretty much had at least one shot on goal, and sometimes both of them do. And they've been really great opportunities. Even in this loss that they just had to Penn State last night, Chandra Davidson had an excellent opportunity very, very late in the game, which she has done pretty much consistently, and they're both tied with 4 goals apiece, which leads the team, and that's really something that Van Bennekom has to be happy about.
So, Brandon, Indiana drops its result Thursday night here in Bloomington to Penn State 1-0. Carrie Bello gets the goal in the 63rd minute, and that's plenty for the Nittany Lions to seal the deal. But post-game, Erwin Van Bennekom still satisfied with his team's effort, especially in the second half, the way they competed. This is a Penn State team that was picked by some to win the Big Ten at the beginning of the 2019 season, and Indiana, really, they've competed all year long, but especially so this past Thursday against Penn State, really continued to fight and keep that in terms of just a 1-0 result.
Yeah, there's no question about it. This is an Indiana team that has outscored opponents in the second half of their games 8-6 as of yesterday, with Penn State, unfortunately for them, scoring in the second half against them. But it's really been the story of how they've been able to try to finish and close out these games. And they really started to kind of find their groove there against teams like Michigan, even though it was a draw. Van Bennekom was still excited about that. And then looking at teams like Illinois and Minnesota, it was all about what people like Avery Lockwood and Chandra Davidson were able to do in the second halves of games, where they actually wound up getting those late game winners, and Chandra Davidson even almost had one in the 87th minute of the game last night.
So a 1-0 loss this past Thursday to Penn State. Erwin Van Bennekom still pleased with the way his team has performed, just talking about taking that next step, and he talked about that Thursday night after the match.
I think more than proud. I think the whole concept for us, and I just said it to the team, I said, I don't care if we play whoever we play. Right, losing is not going to be an option. Losing is not going to be. We're not going to talk about the first goal today was to win the game, right? Not to play well, not to show ourselves well, not to be in the game. It was to win, and we didn't do that. So we're disappointed, even against I know one of the best well-coached teams in the country, one of the best teams in the country. But super disappointed, but proud of the team.
So now turning our attention to this Sunday's match here in Bloomington, when Indiana welcomes the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll have it for you Sunday at noon on BTN+. Brandon, this is a team that's 4-7-1 on the year, fairly evenly matched. Some similar storylines between the Buckeyes and the Hoosiers up to this point. Ohio State still winless on the road. They do have a couple goal scorers, though, that could present some challenges.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Names like Kayla Fisher and Marissa Berzone are 2 players that you're really going to have to keep your eye on going into this weekend. Indiana may have their hands full with them being their 2 leading goal scorers. They have 4 goals apiece, just like the 1-2 punch that we've seen from Indiana so far, and Avery Lockwood and Chandra Davidson. So as you mentioned, it will be dead even heading into this Sunday.
This is an Ohio State team that just drew even on Thursday with Purdue, dropped a close match to the Penn State Nittany Lions, who, of course, Indiana just faced as well. What are your general expectations for what Indiana is able to, do in this game moving forward? We just mentioned how IU's attack has continued to press even when they're down late in the second half. Is Indiana able to keep things close, and what do you see from this game on Sunday?
Yeah, well, they'll have their hands full. Ohio State runs with two separate goaltenders that have really put up significant minutes and significant saves for the Buckeyes, so they definitely will have to figure out which one they're going to be going against and adjust their attack accordingly. But as we mentioned, Chandra Davidson has just not taken her foot off the gas heading into the late portions of games, and it's really wound up paying off in the end, so we'll certainly see that again, hopefully this Sunday.
Buckeyes and Hoosiers, Sunday at noon on BTN Plus. For Brandon, I'm Connor. We'll talk to you guys next week here on the BTN Student U Women's Soccer Pregame Show.